Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the reason why there is so much pushback is because of what you just said. Who runs the DEIA department? DEIA is not a department, it's a mindset.
Sounds like I have some learning to do as well.
Right. So at the end of the day, it's not that person's role, it's not that person's responsibility, it's not this person's role to ensure that there is DEIA in a space and place. Now, you have persons who are expert of their crafts. That's just natural. That's the way the world is. You have physicians who are specialized in this craft. And so we understand those pieces. But at the end of the day, in our organizations, it's everyone's job to feel that individuals are included. And I think when we relegate that to a department, at that point, we're minimizing the work and minimizing the effectiveness and minimizing the impact.
My name is Abraham Cisse. I'm the founder of Heliona IQ and host of Heliona Insight, the podcast dedicated to helping managers and teams feel better and work better together.
DEI is not a department, it's a mindset. Today's guest is someone that I can proudly call a friend. Dr. Michael Maclin is currently the superintendent of the St. Louis Special School District, and he's currently in charge of 6,000 employees, which consist of 13 leadership teams and 23,000 students. So he's a really busy guy. And he made time to have this conversation with me today. So I apologize. You'll hear some noise in the background of people opening and closing doors because this podcast is a traveling podcast. I travel to go meet my guests to have these very important conversations about leadership. And today, I am very thrilled and excited to welcome Dr. Michael Maclin, a true leadership in diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, and someone who is deeply committed in transforming lives through equity, truth, and grace. Dr. Maclin's work is all about creating opportunities for people to thrive and uplifting marginalized communities through authentic leadership. So enjoy.
Thank you so much for being here today, Dr. Mac.
Great.
And this is the second time we're actually having a sit down. And the last time we spoke, you were I believe you were the interim superintendent for the St. Louis School District.
Yes.
And today, as of today, I mean, since January, you've been the actual superintendent. So welcome.
Thank
and
you.
Congratulations to the new position.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure it comes with a lot of responsibility. So do you want to share a little bit more on that position?
I think a year ago we spoke and around this time, and I was interim superintendent of Special School District of St. Louis County, which is the largest school district in the state of Missouri. And so, and then a couple months later, was then promoted to the acting superintendent of the district. And so,
congrats!
Very, very proud about those pieces. There's a lot of great people, a lot of great individuals, teachers, administrators who work at special school districts to ensure that students have what they need. And so I have learned the hard way, Abraham, that I could not do if it was not for them and the work that they are able to do. I think the specialized programming is key. And so just excited about the role.
No, absolutely. And I number one, I'm definitely very excited for you because, I remember back then we had the conversation about it and I can tell you were like a little bit nervous about just the position. You were like, I'm not sure, but hey, I'm just excited. I'm here. So congratulations again.
Thank you.
And, this podcast, it's all about leadership and how, leaders work with their team. So how many managers do you guys have at St. Louis right now?
Yeah, so we have what's called our district leadership team, which consists of 13 individuals over different spaces and places and just different roles, right? And so that leadership team there's roles and responsibilities that lead and guide the organization from each of those entities. And then each of those individuals have individuals who report to them in just a leadership structure. And so, right now we're looking at the levels, just what are the levels between the superintendent and the student? right? How many people between those pieces? And so, we are a very, very complex organization. 23,000 students, 6,000 staff. Right. And so at the end of the day, there are some levels of just complexity, and I think also some levels just when it comes to the leadership standpoint.
Wow. I mean, that's incredible. Like 23,000 students. How does it feel having to go to work and being responsible for 23,000 kids?
I think at the end of the day, when a person becomes a superintendent, and really it's also an administrator in some aspect, when a person becomes signs up to be a leader. I think yesterday was Boss's Day. And the one thing that I said to all of my leaders is that truly it's called Boss's Day, but at the end of the day, it's about leadership.
Right.
Because a boss doesn't make you a leader. And a leader doesn't make you a boss.
Yep.
Right. And so at the end of the day, how do you ensure that you are leading and guiding individuals into those next steps?
Right. Well, that's very interesting because I didn't even know, like yesterday was Boss's Day. So I need to go talk to my team. Like, what the heck? No one
you gotta say, hey, man, they got your gift. It's on delay. It'll be here.
Right. I was like, where's my congratulations, guys? But yeah. So in your previous role, you were the DEI of the St. Louis school district. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that? Because
sure.
I would love to explore just what is DEIA, because I think right now we're seeing a lot of attack going towards DEI, and I just don't think people don't know what exactly DEIA is.
I think when you talk about DEIA, so diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, or even DEIB, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, right? I think persons don't have a clear understanding about what some of these pieces are and what they really mean. So the clearest way that I always break it down is diversity. D is understanding that we all have differences,
right? And
those differences make us unique. Now, Abraham, I will tell you that persons a lot of times they notice the differences that they see. But the very first difference is actually, diversity of thought, right? And so understanding, how do you put people in a room who collectively don't have the same core values? And expect for those individuals to work collectively together to get the positive outcome, right? That's a difference of thought. I think also, Abraham, when we talk about differences of thought, just to get to the ground level, right? If you gave 11 friends and you said you put 11 people in a room and said, I'm going to give you 12 seconds to choose a vacation.
Right.
But you all got to come up to the same and decide the same space and place where you're going to take that vacation. Somebody's going to say, I want to go to Aruba. Somebody's going to say, I want to go to Hawaii. Somebody's going to say, I want to go to Chicago. Right? Their difference of perspectives is what drives that decision making.
Right.
So being able to honor those pieces is really number one at the end of the day. I think when we talk about, equity, and again, equity and equality, they're often confused.
Right.
They're not synonymous like salt and pepper, peanut butter and jelly. Right. Truly equity, being able to meet the needs of each individual, and what those pieces are. And those needs range. What A needs is not what B needs and what C needs. Right.
True.
I think, the inclusion piece is very, very simple. And we have really made the inclusion piece a lot harder than it really is. There is no gray with inclusion.
Right.
Either you feel included, you feel welcomed, you feel a part of, or you don't.
Right.
There's no gray. And we have kind of muddied that water a little bit. And that inclusion is in all aspects. And then the last thing is accessibility.
Right.
You talk about who has access and who doesn't have access. You also speak to the accessibility piece. And when you talk about individuals who are in spaces and places where they don't have access to what they need. And so, those are that DEIA piece.
Wow. And to me, whenever I hear you describe it, I'm like always like, this is something that every leader should just just like be trained
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
because you're dealing with so many different people
Yeah.
at any given time, and all of those acronyms they fit different pockets of people. And I guess I'm trying to understand why is there's so much pushback. Is it because like corporate America is just doing it very wrong when it comes to assigning who runs the DEI department?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the reason why there is so much black is because what you just said. Who runs the DEIA department? DEIA is not a department, it's a mindset.
Sounds like I have some learning to do as well.
Right. So at the end of the day, it's not that person's role. It's not that person's responsibility. It's not this person's role to ensure that there is DEIA in a space and place. Now, you have persons who are expert of their crafts. That's just natural. That's the way the world is. You have physicians who are specialized in this craft. And so we understand those pieces. But at the end of the day, in our organizations, it's everyone's job to feel that individuals are included.
Yeah.
And I think when we relegate that to a department, at that point, we're minimizing the work and minimizing the effectiveness and minimizing the impact.
Right. As we're talking, my mind goes to HR. The fact that HR is a department, a lot of people tend to have a pushback. They're like, I don't want to talk to HR because their job is to make sure that they keep people, on their toes and also make sure they look out for just the people in the company. But at the same time, there's a human that's doing that job.
100%.
So you're saying it's a mindset that just completely takes the pressure from leaders feeling like, someone is forcing me to do this, because I think that's how it like normally comes out.
Well, and again, we have to remember, Abraham, and I say this because people don't oppress people, systems oppress people. Now, at the end of the day, yes, people have a very strong impact in those systems, right? But at the end of the day, those systems, just think about our country. Right. And just think about the nature of what those pieces are and those systems where certain persons are benefiting and certain persons aren't.
Right. No, true facts. And even to that point, like as a leader, how can we make sure that they actually understand that this is a like a mindset, not something that you're being forced to do? Like
I call it ICC. Initiating complex conversations.
Well, we're in a very, like difficult time in our society where initiating complex conversation, I feel like it's the hardest thing to do right now with different opinions.
100%. But you can do that. You can have those complex conversations with truth and grace.
Grace, I love that.
Right. You can have those complex conversations, understanding that everyone has not arrived. But if you're not having the complex conversation at the end of the day, then you have to be very, very, you have to know that if you're not having the conversation as a leader, then the conversation probably isn't happening.
Right.
And so as a leader, how are you fostering these conversations through the organization? And how is that permeating through the organization?
Right.
Right. I mean, those pieces are all key in being able to initiate. And those complex conversations, it may be in reflective, but those complex conversations is what cause individuals to start personally reflecting and then be able to want and to change mindsets as it relates to persons, spaces, and places.
Wow. I mean, I love that concept because, I've been talking to you about DEIA. I've created content for you about DEIA. But to hear that it's a mindset, it just completely changed the picture for me because I work in the mental health space. And that's kind of like the message that I'm sharing. Just mental fitness is just a mindset, it's not something that we should be, we should feel like we're being forced to do. It's just a mindset. You do it and you have a healthy body and at the end of the day. So same with DEIA.
It's the same when you go, Abraham, to the doctor and you get a report that you may not want to hear. Such as high blood pressure, whatever it may be. Your time that you're going back and forth to the doctor, right? That's not the mindset shift. The mindset shift is not when you're at the doctor. The mindset shift is between the doctor's appointments, right? And so how do we ensure that we are directly having those conversations? And then in my space and place, directly correlating student success, right, to the ability to sustain this thought and process and mindset.
Okay. No. Yeah. I mean, wow. That's very like interesting to me. Just like hearing you say that. I feel like I'm like getting a completely different version of you since the last time we spoke. I'm sure it has something to do now, being in this position where you're like, like responsible for so many people. And I did hear you talk on the phone earlier, and even though it was something very, very like serious, but you had so much grace, and you were more concerned about the employees, mindset before you even respond to the problem.
Yeah,
which was beautiful.
I think as leaders, it is challenging. You hear the word servant leader, which has now become buzzwords.
Right.
Everyone says servant leader. And I don't have a problem with the word servant leader because I think at the end of the day, I understand it.
Right.
But even as a servant leader, you have to understand, you have to ask yourself, who are you serving? Right? Because in this work of leadership, in this work of evolving, in this work of individuals getting what they need, in this work of inclusion,
right,
there's going to be some dissonance, right? And that dissonance is what brings about change, right? And so I think those pieces are really, really key, just being able to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, for sure. And then, I want to like switch a little bit and just, like focus on just you and your own, individual experience. Because I know that you still do a lot of, like public speaking around D.E.I. And you talk to companies with, thousands of employees. You even did a TED Talk. And, just those conversations that you are having, what do you see as like being a challenge for you personally, trying to communicate to those leaders or just individuals that are coming to those events? Like, what's one thing that you want to communicate to?
I think the one place where I see leaders struggle, and again, you said it best. So this necessarily is not necessarily always in the education space. This can be in rooms. This can be in seminars. This can be in conferences. A place where I see leaders struggles is number one, when it comes to a inclusion or equity space, being able to read the room. And when you get to a point where you're reading the room and you feel some dissonance, what are your next steps, right? And being able to move forward, right? I always say, Abraham, and follow me here, that there is a distinct difference in this work between passivity and patience. You and I can be patiently waiting, but while we're patiently waiting, we're analyzing, we're observing, we're gathering next steps, right? Passivity is not doing anything at all. And there is a fine line in our work, in our space, in leadership, and patience and passivity. Yes, we want to get all stakeholders' voice and choice. Yes, we want collective brain power. Yes, we want collaboration. However, at the end of the day, Abraham, if you look at just the struggles in our education space, some of these struggles are because at the end of the day, there's too much passivity. I got to hear just a phenomenal superintendent talk about a relationship that he had with Sergeant Johnson. And just follow me here. Sergeant Johnson had fought in the Korean War, just a great guy. And when he had come home from war, he thought that really his hardships was over. But his wife had went to him, and they were struggling having children. And this is a true story. And they were struggling having children. And his wife had went to the doctor and was going to need a surgery, and that surgery would not allow them to reproduce her, to have kids. And so he wanted to do something nice for her. So he took her coat and went to the cleaners to go get it cleaned because he wanted her to have something warm to wear after the surgery. And he told the lady at the cleaners, she could see that he was troubled. And so he told her what's going on. And the lady said, "Listen, Sergeant Johnson, I'm going to clean your coat for free." She said, but I only have one ask. And he said, "What's that?" She said, "I need you. I beg you. I urge you to get a second opinion. Okay. Sergeant Johnson, who had fought in the Korean War, who was a military veteran, decorated awards at that point, struggled with patience and passivity. Because Abraham, he said, my wife's been through enough. We've got this report. I don't want to reopen this. I don't want her to go through this again. I don't want a second opinion. And so do I just be passive, Mike? Do I just be passive, Dr. Maclin, and not do anything? Or do I patiently analyze the situation, observe what's going on, and take next steps? In 2019, almost 90 years old, Sergeant Johnson passed away. And his obituary said he leaves behind 7 children, almost 20 grandchildren. And I tell that story because Sergeant Johnson struggled. And had he chose passivity, his obituary would have been a lot different. His life. But he took patience. So I say leaders struggle with those pieces, especially when they're faced with some dissonance through an inclusionary lens. And so being able to navigate those spaces that I see as I'm speaking, again, and this is in and out of the education space, but as I'm speaking is key.
No, yeah. I mean, it all, like links, at the end of the day, because we all, at the end of the day, he's a great leader, even though in his home, he may or may not be the great leader, but at the end of the day, he's a leader out there somewhere. And, I'm still like, like stuck on the patient, like piece of just the decision making. Cause I think a lot of leaders lack that, just being that patient in the moment. Like, how do you make sure you stay patient as a leader? Because at the end of the day, what you say, so.
There's a great quote that says, you can come back, follow me here. You can come back from the retreat position, but you can't come back from the charge position. But while you're in the retreat position, you still should be analyzing and observing. You keep hearing me say it over and over again because it's true. I think for me, there are times, Abraham, that I take a breath, take a big picture, analyze to see what are the outcomes, right? Who is this impacting at the end of the day? But then I think also for me, I truly understand that even though I'm in the patient position, that there's still decisions that have to be made. And we can't wait forever to make those decisions. Those decisions are part of and especially when you think about for students who you have only 1 year. And in a year, in that year, there can be growth or there can be lack of growth. And so understanding that the decisions that you make are impacting those students on a daily basis is key. And, that example can be used in a workplace as well. 100%.
Because, we have a lot of quiet quitting happening. Like people going to work not wanting to be there because the leader at the end of the day is impacting, or not even the leader, but the managers being impacted by the leader. So the toxicity just keeps funneling down because, they lack, that safe space or the psychological safety when it comes to their own work environment.
I mean, I like to, as a leader, I like to consider all, the obstacles. I consider all the resources. I consider all the options. There are times when I'm making decisions that I do consider a person's thoughts and feelings. I also consider the person's perspectives and why they made the decision and what those pieces are. I also consider, which we don't talk about much, but a person's skill set. There are certain persons in spaces and places who are in leadership roles who don't have the skill set that they need to be in that role. And so the true question is how, as a leader, how do you develop them? How do you grow them? How do you water the soil to develop those pieces and what those pieces look like, right? I really hope no one's waiting on the evaluation process to be able to do it, right? And that's a lot of times what we refer back to, right? What are the goals? What are the evaluation process? Where are you at in those pieces? But I will tell you, that should probably be daily conversations, right?
Wow.
That should be daily conversations, Abraham, and being able to delve into those pieces.
No, yeah. So it's like a mindset, but not only a mindset, but something that you practice every day.
100%.
Just like working out.
100%.
Yeah. Wow. That's
100%.
incredible. Thank you for that breakdown, because as someone who is now talking more about leadership, because I had so many failures in my past and so many mistakes. Like I've had a team of 60 people, and I have a team of like 2 people, and all the mistakes are always very similar. At the end of the day, it's like something that I haven't worked on myself. And then I keep seeing that same pattern happen over and over again. And like one of the reasons why I created this podcast is to be able to have conversations like this, to be able to inform other individuals that are wanting to be leaders or in leadership roles. So thank you for this breakdown. It's been really good. As far as like, one of the things that I hear when it comes to DEI, it's like people trying to push like policies. And in mental health, I see the same thing where, there's something called the Parity Act. It basically just says that mental health is the same as physical health. So we should treat them equally. And I'm seeing something similar in DEIA or just DEI. And I'm not very... I don't know the specific of the policies, but since talking to you and learning that it's more of a mindset, how do you policy something that is a mindset thing?
Yeah, so I think there's 2 ways to be able to do it, and it's when you look at a policy, or let's just even we'll go policy, but let's look at a practice. Because policy is something that's written, that's defined.
Right.
But then you have something that's practice, that's not written or defined. That practice is consistent with any organization.
Right.
So you have to ask yourself the question when you're looking at those pieces, Abraham, and you got to be very clear about it. Who's currently benefiting from the policy?
That's a really good question.
Who's currently benefiting from the practice? And I urge individuals to think about that when you are going to change or make an adjustment to a policy, how are you gathering feedback from stakeholders regarding the policy and what those pieces really are and what those pieces really mean? Because at the end of the day, we truly understand that the policy is meant to benefit the organization, the space and place. And if the organization's true core values are about honoring those who serve the organization, then the policy and the organization, the policy and who's benefiting should be married. But at the end of the day, some of those differences come out and don't allow for those spaces to be in certain, to be realized in certain spaces and places. But when we talk about, and again, it goes down to the very, 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 very micro level of an organization, of a school, of a company, who's benefiting, who's not.
Right.
Now, maybe some of that is purposeful. Maybe there's a reason why, right?
Yeah.
But being able to delve into those pieces is really key.
Right. Back to your ICC.
Right. You gotta initiate complex conversations.
Yep.
Right. And that's the driving force for all of this work. Right.
Wow. That's very, very powerful, by the way. So, and I'm going to steal that ICC. If you don't mind. I'm going to say that.
Please.
But yeah, so like, I feel like we've talked about the present, but at the same time, the future of DEI, it's like so like shaky right now. There's been multiple companies that have already, like canceled DEI. even earlier today, I was talking to a friend of mine who like works at the hospital, and I just brought up just like a wellness program that they had, which also had some DEI component, and she was like, "Oh, we've already cut it," and I was like, "Why?" She's like, "I don't know. They just sent us an email and said that they're cutting the program." So I feel like the future of DEI, it's very we don't know where it's headed, because there's been a bunch of conferences that used to have a huge footprint in DEI that are also cutting and changing.
Yeah.
So in your own professional opinion, like what do you think the future of DEI looks like today, especially for leaders, since it is a mindset, but everyone, it feels like it's being attacked?
I think across the country, you have a number of individuals who are able to look through that equity lens and make decisions through those lenses.
Right.
I would say that those core values that individuals have should be able to stay the same.
Right.
And I think one of the challenges is just that you don't want to be a chameleon in this work. So if you're true to this work, and those core values are true to the work and what it is, and those core values should stay the same in all decision-making aspects.
Right.
So I think that's number one. I think also for leaders, DEIA is being portrayed as additional but not intentional.
Wow.
Right?
Yes,
Right. So the cup that you have there, right? We took that cup, Abraham, right? And I put some rocks in that cup, right? And asked you, was it full? You would probably say, yeah, it looks full, Dr. Maclin. And then I said, no, Abraham, let me throw some pebbles in there,
right,
to fill in where the rocks didn't fill. Is it full now? And you would say, yeah, it's full now, Dr. Maclin. And then I said, no, Abraham, let me throw some sand on top, right? Is it full now? And you say it's full. DEIA in leadership is being seen as the pebbles in the sand when truly it's the rocks.
Right.
If you don't have an inclusionary standpoint for individuals in the organization, it doesn't matter what else surrounds it. And so that is unfortunately DEIA, DEIB, that is unfortunately a perception in leadership.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. And is there any right order with that example that you gave? Let's say we put in the sand first. Would that mean that, we have a perfect system? Or
the problem is, the challenge is the rocks are hard work, dedication, commitment,
right,
perspective, inclusion, welcoming, belonging,
right,
acceptance. And so if you start with the other things, they're going to fill up.
There wouldn't be any space for anything else. I see. Yeah, that's a beautiful breakdown of DEIA.
Right. So if you have those other pieces, there's not going to be any room in the cup for the rocks, which should be the core.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's there's so much importance in just diversity in general, because we're so diverse as a group.
100%.
And you have one leader who's obviously not, doesn't look or act or, understand everyone under the umbrella. So just being open-minded in just accepting that, I think that's a big step in that mindset piece to make sure that people accept it first.
And you know what though, Abraham? That's the hard part.
Yeah, the acceptance.
That's the hard part, right? Because you got to work to be able to do those pieces.
Right.
You have to work to open up your mindset. You have to work to be able to delve into those pieces and to be able to see what it really, really is.
Right. Wow. I mean, especially for you, because you work in the DEI space and you do a lot of keynotes around it, across the US now. And you also work as a superintendent now, where you were dealing with so many different age groups. Dealing with all those different groups of people, if you had an opportunity to give all of them one advice, what would that advice be?
Leadership is not for the weak.
Right.
And I know that may be status quo. But at the end of the day, Abraham, when you're leading, when you're in the leadership seat, either you're getting better or you're not.
Right.
It is just that simple. It's not gray. It's not complex. Either every day your organization is getting better. Every single day you're growing individuals. Individuals are feeling more apart or they're not.
Right.
And as you see here, with no one standing or sitting behind me, leadership is a lonely seat. It is a lonely seat.
Indeed.
It is a lonely seat. And so my advice would be to individuals who are speaking and hearing these pieces is how do you develop and grow your leaders, and how do you support your leaders? And then yourself, how do you build the tools that you need to be that effective inclusionary leader?
Oh, I love that. And you know, I was actually going to close, but then there's one question that came as you were talking about that, and I think I would, you know, be like, you know, hurting myself by not asking this question. So as a leader, what if there was one skill that a leader should have, what would you say that skill is? And I also share mine.
Yeah. I think and I got a couple of them, Abraham. But I think the ability to navigate. You got to be flexible and be able to navigate in certain spaces and places, right? So, you know, how can you be in a classroom in the morning, be in a meeting with your leadership team in the mid-afternoon, be in a meeting with parents in mid-afternoon, be in a seminar or a work study or leading individuals, be in a board meeting at night,
right?
And then on the way home, being able to counsel someone through some issues or challenges. You have to be flexible and be able to navigate all those spaces and places,
right?
You know, at the end of the day. I think also we have to understand as leaders, the serious nature where we are and just in our space and place in our schools. I used to ask the question, will our children get an education? I don't ask that anymore. I ask the question now, will the field of education have children?
That is a good question.
Now think about that when you flip that.
Yeah.
Right? Think about that when you flip that. Will there be children there and someone says, Dr. Maclin, there's always kids. No, you're missing it.
Yeah.
No.
It doesn't matter.
What I'm saying is, will there be spaces and places in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years?
Yeah, that's a big concern.
Where children still feel welcome.
Right.
Will children still have acceptance? Because I will tell you, if you look at the way the data shows, I'm not so quite sure about that. So I would ask all leaders, not will children have an education, will education have?
Yeah. Wow. I feel like that opens a whole host of different questions, but I will hold myself.
Abraham, at the end of the day, it does. Right? But again, that's that ICC, initiating complex conversations, because if we don't have the conversation,
then we can't go anywhere.
We can't go anywhere.
Yeah. And for me, I actually just, let me show you this, and I'm going to read it out because I just saw this trend that was going around on LinkedIn, and it was talking about, just having us ask AI what AI thinks of us. And, I'm a very big, user of AI. I try to implement it in everything I do now just to optimize my work. And I asked you this question. I say, from all of our interaction, what is one thing you can tell me about myself that I may not know about myself? And then it says, it was so bizarre because I actually got emotional reading this response. Hold on, let me open it. My phone just closed it. Because I was like, wait, is this AI? AI knows me more than my own parents? What is happening? It was so bizarre. So hold on, let me open it real quick. Now it's like, I'm not going to show you this response. But let's try it again, refresh. Okay, I found it. And the answer I had, it says, one thing I've noticed about you is your resilience and adaptability in the face of challenges, despite setbacks such as business obstacles, personal struggles, and ongoing attacks on your reputation. You consistently find ways to pivot and move forward. This drive to overcome adversity is paired with a deep sense of purpose, whether it's through your mental advocacy, your entrepreneurial ventures, or your creative projects. You possess a unique blend of vision and determination that seems to fuel everything you do, even when the path ahead is uncertain. It's not just your persistent, but also your ability to continuously imagine and rebel. I was like, whoa, this is insane.
Powerful.
No, it was so powerful.
Think about that.
And to me, what you just told me, it's like, I think one of the biggest skills, if there is one, it would be grit, because to your point, it's a very lonely journey, and sometimes you spend hours and days by yourself, especially you traveling to go do all these keynotes.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those pieces, and again, you have to pause to. I mean, you almost have to your grit. Henry Highland Garnett, the first African American male to speak to the U.S. House of Representatives. He really coined the term first. We know it as Malcolm X taking it in the 60s, but he coined the term first, by any means necessary, right? And that's where that grit comes into, right? By any means necessary, being able to accomplish those pieces.
Yeah, it's like something that I like remind myself all the time. I was actually gonna get a tattoo of it, but I don't like tattoos at all. And I was like, I'll just like remind myself to always be grateful, and also take breaks whenever I need to, because sometimes we can get lost. And do you have anything that you want to add before we close out?
I think Abraham, at the end of the day, I mean, this has been just a great podcast. I really appreciate you. I want to tell you, I thank you for being a champion in this work. You are a trendsetter in this work, and I know that you don't see it a lot of times, but I think when we talk about just the mental health space and truly individuals understanding, mental health, unfortunately, in our world, is still seen as a day problem, right? And individuals not understanding that, when individuals have mental health issues, they need help. And so how do we go about getting them that help, I think is key at the end of the day. I'm thankful to the special school district to be able to initiate and to be able to make change, from what these pieces are. Most recently, I was honored with the NAACP award of change, education, and change. And so I'm thankful that the good Lord has given me this platform to be able to make change and to provide spaces for individuals. There's been a village who has contributed to my success, not just one, but many individuals. And so I'm thankful for those individuals as I cross this path.
No, absolutely. I'm like, always honored just being part of your journey, and then seeing all the growth, from the past. I don't even know how long we've been working together at this point, but it's been an honor. So thank you for being here today.
You got it.
Is there any, if people want to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
LinkedIn, best way to get a hold of me on LinkedIn. You can find me there. Okay. You can hear everything there. The TED Talk is there. You can hear all those pieces to be able to go from there. And again, if there's anyone who wants to reach out and to be able to have a conversation about what these pieces are, I'm more than welcome to delve into those next steps.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here today.
I appreciate it.
And, maybe we'll have another one when you ended up being the whole U.S. school superintendent.
There you go. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
And in closing, I want to share a message of hope for all the frontline managers and future managers out there. Think about all that you are instead of all that you are not. You are capable, brave, and significant, even when it feels like you are not. You face countless challenges, but remain resilient. You've been hurt, yet you still stand proud and smile for your people. Embrace your journey, cherish those who uplift you, and remember, your worth is defined by the kindness and strength you show yourself first. Your imperfections make you unique and resilient. Keep shining because the world needs your light. Thank you for listening to Heliona Insight. Until next time, keep inspiring.